So tonight, emotional trauma. We've got erotic asphyxiation in Finland. A widowed heart surgeon and single father literally stumbles into a dominatrix's dungeon. And we get a film that you don't really hear about. Finnish film, 2019, director J.P. Valkeapää. Dogs Don't Wear Pants. Rick.
I remember a few months back, maybe it was a year ago, you and I did an episode on William Friedkin's Cruising. And I said that the main problem with the movie was that it depicts a world that is fascinating, but doesn't really allow you to understand it in any way, and it doesn't take you in. It exposes you without really helping you understand it. Now, with the world of bondage, sexual, sadomasochistic practices, this dominatrix world, I think most people would agree that there is a distance from their knowledge and understanding of that world and what it actually is. So to make it a setting that you're going to go into is very promising, and it's very exciting in the nature of understanding something that is foreign to us. The problem is that I'm facing is the realization that the story maybe is just not interesting enough. The fact is that you create this world that in your head you've built up an expectation that I'm not sure a story can live up to. And that's certainly the case here for me. There's a lot about this movie that I like. I really like the acting. I think the acting is, top par. I think both Juha, the lead character, and Mona, the dominatrix, who he basically gives himself to, they both do a fantastic job in relating who they are. The problem is, especially with her, you don't understand where her motivation is coming from. Because I think to do this kind of work, it's not as easy as it sounds that, oh, yeah, you give me a couple $100 and I'll beat the shit out of somebody. That's a little bit too simplistic and I think a lot of people would say that, oh, well, I can beat the shit out of somebody for a couple $100. Yeah. But the truth of it is, the reality is that there is a lot more emotion that goes into something like that.
And psychology.
Emotion and psychology, or an ability to separate yourself from the emotion. So ultimately, the film doesn't work for me because it doesn't live up to whatever I imagine it could be. Maybe the fact is that the world is a little bit too boring, because you imagine that there's more to it. And I mean, sure, there's the discomfort in watching somebody get the shit beat out of them. But at the same time, I'm sitting there thinking to myself, in some cases, it's too foreign idea for somebody who's more straight vanilla.
You?
Yeah.
Or just in general, someone like that.
Yeah, or somebody like that. But I also imagine that somebody watching it who is in that world, I can't imagine that the film goes far enough in really understanding the drive
Well, yeah.
for either Juha or Mona, for
I
him
mean, I think
wanting that and her wanting to be that. I don't know.
the premise is that you have, there's a scene in the beginning where it's, this man is, he's awoken by something, the sound of the baby crying or the little girl. He goes onto this lake, he jumps in, the wife is caught like in a net, and she drowns. The little girl is like lakeside, and he almost drowns going in after the wife to save her. He has this vision, this and kind of like angelic, euphoric vision of his wife, and then it basically drops you back into, I guess, in the hero's journey kind of parlance, into the ordinary world. And you see that it's very mundane, it's very clean, it's orderly, it's cold, it is surgical. He's a surgeon, and you're in that environment. If I'm speaking from that perspective of like that kind of screenwriting background thing or whatever, then his character wound is like his wife has drowned. He can't control that, and now he has a connection to his wife, her death, through his almost having drowned himself. So we see him with his daughter, who's now like an adolescent, and she wants to get her tongue pierced. So he takes her to her appointment, and right away, you're in a different world when you reach that piercing / tattoo parlor. That this was the part where I was like, oh, this is cool, because I'd kind of stumbled on this film. I hadn't seen it, and I said, this looks really interesting. This looks, the things that you're talking about, this kind of, this world, something that isn't of the vanilla world. And my question was, how are they going to approach this? Is this from someone who maybe has more of an insider perspective, or, because the same thing crossed my mind in terms of cruising, or is this just a device to tell the story? And so the daughter wants her tongue pierced. Right away you get this like dark environment, this dark building, but you get neon lights, you get like this resin, somewhat maybe without the flashing, somewhat dust bar in the way, and kind of like lighting, like real vivid colors are like coming out of the black. The camera's panning on like some nitrile gloves, like a dish that has a piercing, the pulsing music, like a pulsing electronic music, and I was already like, oh, this is fucking cool. I want to work at that place. I want to fucking be in that place. I want to own that place. I love that aesthetic. And so she's gonna get her tongue pierced, and he kind of wanders to go get coffee. He wanders basically down the wrong corridor, and he's in this dungeon. It's dark, and there's a suit. And the idea is like, as a viewer, the idea is like there may or may not be a person inside, but the suit is like hanging, like almost like crucified, and it looks like a complete like bodysuit, like think of like a body of armor / like gimp, and it's like spiked, and he like wanders down there, and he just keeps walking towards it. He gets closer and closer, and he reaches out, and he's gonna touch the spikes, and this fucking hand comes out of nowhere and just hits him and knocks him down. And so you have this character with a wig. She looks like, kind of like almost like the creature from Cabinet of Dr. Caligari with the makeup, but she's got this latex bodysuit like the Catwoman, like Michelle Pfeiffer. And her wig kind of looks like Chris, like Daryl Hannah from Blade Runner.
Yeah.
I'm seeing all these things, you know what I mean, as I'm watching this, and she's like choking him out. And then she just like leaves. So you know, at that point, he's come out of, as any hero's villainy fucking film, he's come out of his ordinary world, and then he crosses a threshold. And once you cross that threshold, there's something that either you cross it or it crosses you, and now your life is different. And so you have to go on your hero's journey or whatever. And so you decide, like, first, most of the time, according to that theory, with Joseph Campbell, is that you get the call to action, and then you have the denial of the call, but then you go. Well, you can tell he's got the bug. He's been bitten.
Yeah.
And, you know, if you're bitten by a werewolf or by a vampire, you're going to fucking turn, you know? And so the movie is about his confrontation with his grief over his wife's death by drowning, and this fetish that he's developed involving asphyxiation. And sometimes it'll include like perfume, his wife's perfume that he like sprays directly up his fucking nose. And then her dress. And so increasingly throughout the film, it's his interactions with this dominatrix and him wanting her to suffocate him. And the consequences of that, and how his normal life, just how it takes a toll on his normal life. His normal life becomes a mess because he can't focus on normal work. He can't focus on his daughter because he's only focused on that moment of passing up, almost passing out. And there are really strong scenes where the dominatrix is like, covers his face with plastic. He's holding this like glass ball in his hand. He's like bound to a chair.
Yeah.
And when he releases the ball, it drops into a dish. And that's the cue to let him breathe again. And throughout the film, things just, they keep pushing it, and she's pushing it too. And then there's a moment where he fucking passes out. And beyond that, she has to like resuscitate him. And then it gets further and further until he comes to a place where it's like he's now, it's not that he's transformed. I think the idea of the film is that you want to believe that he's transformed. But my issues with the film were that I didn't, for example, I know a lot of times you really want to connect with the motivations of characters and what's driving them and what we know about them in terms of like what's moving them through their world. For me, if this movie is about the relationship between these characters, and if those kind of dominant, submissive, power dynamic BDSM relationships are about the relationship, I wasn't only interested in how she was going to so-called like break him down. I was also interested in how she was going to support him after, to basically build him back up to his baseline. Because it's theater. And I'm not part of that scene, but like my understanding from my outside perspective is you're creating a space so that your clients, your subs, they come into, I mean, if that's what that particular relationship is, and in this case it is, She's coming in there to be supported in that world, in that role. And it's her job to create that support system for him so she can provide that fantasy. And then after, to kind of return him to where he was when he came in. But she's got her own fucking shit as a character, and we don't know what that is, like you said. And if he's going to change, I didn't believe that, because by the end in the film, he kind of seems to be now a member of that world. He goes to this club because he starts like stalking her.
Yeah. And
he goes to this club that she frequents it's a nightclub frequented by members of the local like BDSM like scene. And those kind of places, there's a famous club in Germany, in Berlin, called Berghain. And that club, if you watch videos about it, it's all about like how to get into Berghain, because it's very, very selective in how you get. Like, there are long lines, and the idea, especially, I get the sense that a lot of Americans, they say, oh, because it's very exclusive. And responses that you can see, like if you watch videos about it or whatever, from people who have been or people who are kind of like, they go often, is that it's not that it's exclusive. If you know the history of that club, and I'm using this as an example because I think it fits, is that because there's like one famous, he's like a photographer, I forgot his name, but he's like in his 50s. He's one of the most famous bouncers there. He has like tattoos on his face, hair like ponytail, piercings, white hair, like kind of stocky guy. You walk up and he either lets you in or he says no, and then you leave. That's it. And there's no explanation. There's no the rationale as to why you get in and why you don't is not discussed with you. And it's very intuitive, and it's very, and so people are like, oh, like, okay, what's the pattern? How do you dress? How do you behave to get in? But it's so exclusive, it's so trendy, and it's like, the reason is because that club is heavily frequented and has its origins in a lot of like gay community and other alternative like Berlin lifestyle communities. And so the idea is to create an environment where those people who frequent that place often feel that they can literally be fucking like vulnerable and naked there. Where you can just walk around naked with fucking cock ring or whatever the fuck and some boots, you know what I mean? And just dance and not be either judged or assaulted or fucking whatever. And so there has to be a very strict gatekeeping policy so that people with a tourist mentality, people who are just going to goth, people who are going to do whatever the fuck, it's like, if you don't belong here, like you're not getting in.
Yeah, that should be the case. Somebody else's.
Yeah.
Somebody else. I mean, part of the thing that you're describing is the problem with us watching cruising is that it's a fascinating world, but we have no right to it. So it's not like going to the zoo and looking at the animals, because that's what. And I'm not talking sexually straight, but in the square. Terminology of straight edge. We have no right to that. So you really need to, there needs to be a certain level of respect for a person's you might, some people would say proclivities or their interests or their self-destructive nature, if you want to call it that. I don't know I don't understand this world, but there is a fascination with it as a narrative setting, in the same way that prison is interesting, or mental asylums, or and, you know, and I'm not equating um, um, uh, insanity or criminal behavior with this. What I'm talking about is cultures and subcultures, and specifically subcultures within the culture that feel that they have to hide from a very judgmental world, and need to do so justifiably.
Yeah.
Because this shit is not accepted, although there are a great number of regular everyday people who enjoy getting the shit beat out of them, being berated, being punished in this way. So, you know, take a step back and understand that there is an element of society that embraces this regardless of your feelings about it. I could watch this movie and say, this is fucked up. And I would be correct as far as looking at the setting and telling myself, well, this is fucked up based on my perception of how I live. But I can't say, and I will not say, that there is anything wrong with what is happening in this film. I don't think there is anything wrong with these people. I think that they have found something that makes things that makes life a little bit more bearable. And we should all be fortunate enough to find that. But that's not what's going on with this particular story. This is a guy that is slowly descending into painful obsession, pain, and ultimately a dance with death.
Yeah, it's like a death wish.
Yeah, this isn't just somebody who likes the pain, because like when you watch something like this, for those of us who are civilians, when we hear about this kind of environment, it's one of two things. You have a man, most often a man, from what I understand, most often a powerful man in business with a great deal of responsibility, who feels that they need to give up that power and be subjugated with violence, with belittling, with any aspect that means you give your power over to somebody else.
Yeah, someone else can be responsible now.
Exactly. Then on the other end, you have people that are so pained by life because of abuse that they start cutting, and you hear that constant. It's almost fucking cliche, where they say, "I cut just so that I can feel again." That's something that's cliche in as it describes the culture. That seems to be
like. Mm-hmm. Like the secretary deals with both of those kind of elements, where it's James Spader and
Maggie Gyllenhaal.
And that's the thing, is that these are two different. There are two different elements. One is like you're expressing role play and sexual fantasy, and doing it in a setting where you're working with these things, and you're acting out. It can be therapeutic, but it's not necessarily like self-destructive.
Yeah.
Even if, for example, like if someone's paddling you or whatever, like you get marks. But in the same way that, for example, you if you like to work out, you're going to feel sore.
Mm-hmm.
you're not gonna have pain. Like the no pain, no gain thing doesn't necessarily mean like pain, like as in you're injuring yourself, but it means like you are fucking tearing those muscle fibers and they're building though. You know what I mean? And in the same way, if you are into tattoos, and you get, I mean, every tattoo is more or less painful, but some are worse. And if you're really into the tattoo aesthetic and you're really into like crazy tattoos, maybe in areas that are fucking very straight on your ribs, it's very painful. You feel pain, and then the pain goes into euphoria. And then overall, like you're also expressing yourself. You're going for a certain look. You're creating a look on yourself as a canvas. People who are into body suspension with like hooking, they're doing it. It's very like related to like tribal shit, even tribal religious stuff. There's like a kind of meditative aspect to it that people talk about. It's endorphins, adrenaline, all this shit, and that's different than abuse or self-harm. This guy is what you described as his dance with death. He's reenacting his trauma, but we don't see him kind of come to terms with his trauma and take ownership of it. We see the trauma take ownership of him, and he starts spiraling to the point that he's like stalking her, and he fucking needs her, and because he's associating her with his wife. And then on her side, we see it. That's like her night job. Her day job is she's like a type of therapist, like physical therapist. And we see her in a pool working with someone, doing the therapeutic kind of exercises. We see her like suspending someone, like they call, they have like alignment issues or something like that. And so we can see this like nurturing side, and then at night you see this other side. But I never saw like a sense of, only when shit goes wrong, and we see 2 moments of when shit goes wrong in her dungeon, which is when he stops breathing, and then when, because she's all fucked up over his shit with her, there's a scene where this man is, he's like in child's pose, which is basically like you're kneeling, but then like you put your chest to your thighs or whatever, and he's like, so he's face down in a very like submissive posture, and there are all of these red candles that have been on his back. They're standing on his back, but they're burned down to the point that they're stuck to his back because the wax is melted onto it. And if you think about like, a candle at first, like it's burning, and then when the wax, and then you have to have the candles that don't just evaporate, the kind that has the wax that drips. At first, it's it burns, but it dries very quickly. But once it gets fucking low enough that it's like constantly dropping fucking hot ass wax on you, it's keeping the flow like warm. But the idea you see from the movie is that at a certain point, he can't fucking take the burning anymore. So then he gives the safe word, which is red. And then she at that point is to stand above him or stand over him, kind of crouch, and then piss on him to extinguish the candles.
Yeah.
while this other chick is like in a chair watching. She's all masked up too.
Yeah.
So this dude is like, red, like he's reached his limit, but she can't. She's drunk all this water, but she can't fucking pee. So she's having like her performance anxiety.
Yeah, her mind isn't. She's consumed by this other aspect of what's going on with her.
Yeah, and so she's not able to basically do her duty with the vaccine to be able to maintain that space where once he reaches his limit, you have to fucking like be there to support him. So she ends up putting out the candles with her hands and burning her hands. And that's at that point, it's like she is being unsafe and she's being irresponsible. And later, we're giving away the whole fucking movie, but whatever. The idea is that he's pushing her to her limit, but we don't see her sense of like boundaries as a dom. We see her sense of just boundaries as a human.
Yeah.
And I felt that I would have thought that her boundaries as a dom would have been further out, because it's kind of like, all right, like this is unsafe. And if he's being that unsafe with himself, he's going to be that unsafe with her. And then now she's being unsafe with him because of that. To the point where she's like, okay, we're going to do this. I'm going to fucking pull out one of your teeth with a set of pliers. And in 9.5 weeks, in the book, it's like that one, he's more abusive. But in those kind of stories, you have the character who keeps pushing someone's boundaries.
Yeah.
And they reach a point where either they keep going or they like stop, and then okay, you know what the limit is, and then you can go up to that limit. He does that with this guy in terms of the breath work, we'll call it that. But once we get to the tooth, it goes into an area of, because I think there's a difference between sadomasochism as an alternative lifestyle practice type of thing, and just straight like sadistic behavior. If you were to say like, I'm gonna fucking pull your tooth out, and it's part of the theater of it, but she actually fucking does it. So at that point, I'm watching this and I'm saying like, okay, well, what are her fucking, like, she's got some fucking demons too. I mean, we all have demons, but the idea is that like this doesn't come out of nowhere.
Yeah.
So by the end of the film, when he's missing a tooth and he gains admittance to the club because he's wearing some fetish gear, and he's almost died, and they see each other. It's kind of like, okay, now what? Not that I want all this resolution, but it felt like that was like, this is a beginning of kind of a crucial aspect of the film, which is how does he now live with this? Is it now a fetish, or is it just he's just fucked up? You know what I mean?
Well, I think with something like this is, I think to a degree he's I think he's fucked up in the middle of the film. He has a better control of it because he has a better understanding of it near the end, and I think he's going to be all right because he's learning that in order to, his particular kink involves masochism. And in order to achieve that, he needs to learn how to control it. At the very end, I feel that it's making a statement where it is that hero's journey of starting to of taking that path and understanding yourself as the film goes. And I think it was an adequate ending in that respect, because you're going to project onto the rest of the movie. Whatever a movie ends, but life continues. The life of this story is going to continue.
Yeah.
But it really comes down to, how is he going to navigate future waters? The problem I have with the film is, up to that point, I'm already bored, because it's not telling me anything that I don't already, that I haven't already suspected about this community. It doesn't tell me anything that I haven't seen before, just not as graphically. The tooth thing, the thumbnail, those are both, I don't know if they're gratuitous and designed to make an audience uncomfortable, or to illustrate the lengths to which they will go to push themselves or each other. In this case, with her pushing him, because I do feel like she does the tooth thing in order to break him. Like, this is it. I don't want to have anything to do with you anymore. I'm going to give you the ultimate pain, and it works for him. It's that moment where he realizes how much pain he can endure without dying, without it killing him, and he's into it at that point. The auto-erotic asphyxiation, you pass out. So I'm sure if he comes at that moment, it is incredible for him. But he's risking death. It's over.
Again, it's not even auto, because it's like he's having her do it. Like, okay, the David Carradine.
So we don't know if that little boy was involved with. Well, anyway, go ahead.
I mean,
oh shit.
What we know is that he was shooting a film. He was supposed to go hang out with some people from the production, but he didn't. He had this rig where it was this rope, and I think another, like a shoelace or something. And what I've heard is that it was some kind of like pulley system. So it was like, part of it was attached to his wrists, like one end, and then the other end was attached to around his neck and his balls.
Yeah.
And I saw the the newspaper, the picture from the newspaper, where at first I think a lot of people thought he was wearing fishnets because it was like super blurry. But I think it was just like they did like a cross-hatching on the body in order to cover up like the naked parts of his body. And then I saw the autopsy photos. And he's just obviously he's dead, but the ropes are just from his wrists to his balls. And from what I've heard is that the way the system worked was that if you were to raise his arms, it choked, and if you were to lower them to a certain point, it would release. But obviously the question, is like, did someone help him? And then when he fucking like passed out, and they were like, "Oh fuck this! I can't undo these knots. I'm out of here."
Yeah.
Take the money and run. Or was it just him, and he passed out, and at that point he passed out, so he choked. I think at least two of his partners talked about how he would be able to like tie himself up and do all kinds of crazy shit, and they, I think one of them found him, and I think she saved him. And so this is safer because it's like someone else is doing it to you, but he keeps pushing, and I just felt that the ending was a little bit too. It was too like happy ending, and at the same time, I don't want.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
didn't want this
happy ending.
I didn't want this Hays Code bullshit where it's like, oh well, you have to die of the consequences of your like deviant
Of
fucking
your
actions.
depravity. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not. That's not where I'm coming from at all. I just, it felt to me like the movie was more from an outsider perspective, and I just felt like it was missing a piece where he kind of took ownership of it as a practice and like a way to like, okay, I get it. Like I've been using this as a way to like feel, but now I'm going to like, I'm gonna own it versus just okay, I get the like, if there's some kind of symbolism with okay, now that the truth is gone, like the fucking trauma is gone, you know, and now I'm gonna put on this fetish wear and I'm good. So there's a moment where he starts to become happy. He's like, he skips, so he does this like shuffle step or whatever. And that was interesting because it's like, okay, like he's changing, he's coming back to life, but it never really, I think, it didn't balance out the trauma with the becoming whatever and embracing this new practice as a kind of like a sense of healing, a sense of like empowerment, a sense of I'm getting closer to who I am, or a deeper layer of myself, versus like I'm just acting out on impulses that I can't control because they're driving me. And then now I'm gonna have like a love story with this chick. You know what I mean? But I did like I liked the subject matter, and I liked that it was attempted. I liked that it was.
I thought it was a brave film in that regard, where it's like it doesn't shy away from what this world is, and it doesn't demonize it in any way. And I like that aspect of it. I can't say that your average movie watching public is going to embrace this. They're going to be very judgmental, and I'm with you. I liked the subject matter. I don't know if you like the acting. I really like the acting. The performances by both leads.
She's great.
What's that?
She's great.
She is great. I just ultimately thought that it was a boring film, that the story itself didn't go far enough in understanding either of them. And actually not even I think if you had amped up her backstory and given her more screen time, and I'm not saying that they should have met for coffee at some point and started discussing, because that would have been fucking stupid. But I would have liked to show more to show more elements of her motivation and her story and how she got there. With him, it's obvious, and it's there. But this is a dance, and there's only one person that's being given any kind of steps. So she's left as kind of a, all she is really is a key to get the story started. But you don't know what went into making her. And I think the balance doesn't exist. So that, I think that's ultimately why this film fails for me. And that's why I'm just like, oh, okay, well, this is what they're doing, and I'm kind of bored with it at this point.
Even like something like Cronenberg's Crash, which doesn't really go into
the psychology of it.
It doesn't go into the backstory.
Yeah.
It goes into it depicts the results of the psychology, I guess. Yeah. But even something like that, where there's an element of mystery to it, and they're very self-destructive. It's a film about fucking sexuality and car crashes, where the main character, well, not the main character, but they're basically, their Yoda dies. The one who brings them to this world, their mentor, is basically preparing for his own crash and burn death. And I don't know if it's in the book, that character is obsessed with crashing into Elizabeth Taylor. And their car, and so it's Cronenberg, I think, would have, because this, I'm not going to even say that this film depicts that world. This film depicts one person's journey through trauma, where he dips his toe into one person's dungeon. And then they end up at some point at like a fetish, a dance club where fetish people like go. But I'm not going to say that that's that world, because I think that it is much more than, oh, this person likes to get beaten up, or this person likes to get, it's kind of like, that's just the, I've heard it explained that like fetishes, fantasies, there's a dream logic to them, where it's not, and a psychological level to it that isn't just, it's not straight up what you see is what you get. For example, let's say cross-dressing, or some kind of, if it's for a man, let's say it's cross-dressing and it's like this like feminization thing, that can be, if you think about it in terms of like dream logic, if you were to dream yourself and you're a woman, and you know, like if you were to be like, well, you know how like a lot of times you'll be telling someone about a dream and you're like, oh, I was a fucking frog. I couldn't see myself, but I know I was a frog. You just know shit, right, in your dream. And you know, that can be an idea of, going back to the cross-dressing thing, it can be an idea of like from a Jungian perspective, an underdeveloped relationship to the feminine aspect of yourself, or something that you're repressing because you're Christy Nolan's husband or whatever. And so now you're like wearing a bra and being like, I'm a little bitch, and whatever you're doing, because there's something that isn't being dealt with on the upper level of the waking life. And so those things in your dream world or your like fantasy world are coming into that. It's deeper than that, and I feel like this touches on it in terms of him wanting to kind of connect through the not breathing aspect to his dead wife. But I wish that there was more of a sense of, I felt like him going into her world, it should have been him going into her world. I felt like he went into her world, but he brought his world with it and fucked up her world. And that wasn't, we saw that happen, but it wasn't depicted in such a way that it had like deeper consequences to her, and I think we saw it on a very superficial level.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
So that it just goes, oh yeah, this idea of like, oh, she chokes him out. There was no screening of him. There was no it was just immediate. And even in like the way she attacks him in the beginning, it was just kind of like, I could see for effect why that would be done, but also I'm like, this is your fucking dungeon. Like, it just felt like she wasn't even in control.
It felt a little contrived.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but I liked the set design of the dungeon. I liked the lighting. I liked I thought it could have gone other places. I liked that they attempted it. You know.
Well, I'm in complete agreement. I think it's a very. I wouldn't advise anybody not to see the film. But I think you have to know what you're getting into with this type of film. But it's not going to satisfy. Curiosity isn't the right word that I want to use. I want to use it's not going to satisfy the any kind of a narrative understanding of what this world is. So I think it's a very interesting story. It's a captivating story. The execution, it misses the landing. It really doesn't pay out in the way that it should. And I think that main problem is that it doesn't give enough focus on her story, on who she is and what she brings to this particular situation, what has brought her there. It's a dual kind of thing, and one of them is left in the dark. So I think that's a problem narratively, and I think you walk out of it feeling I'm only getting half of a story.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a sense of, it's kind of like rephrase what I said, but differently. It is the idea of like fixing him. She doesn't like break him. And she doesn't fix him. But at the same time, this idea of kind of like, okay, like we can do this, and through doing this, you will gain the understanding that you're not broken at all.
Yeah. I definitely
you're
think.
Alive.
Yeah, I definitely think that the story goes on here, and they have a long, or however long a relationship like this can last, because there is a part of me that believes that whatever happens, you're going to start becoming numb to the pain as well.
Well, yeah.
So maybe,
your things will, like, what do you do to, like, does shit just escalate until you die? You know what I mean? Or is this a dance where there are like ebbs and flows, and you start to explore other aspects of yourself other than just fixating on this thing because you have this obsessive drive based on your fucking trauma. You know what I mean? Like, and I didn't feel that there was this idea of her kind of like guiding it. It was just kind of like very, very basic, like prostitute. And I'm not saying that in a way to disparage like sex workers. I don't have a moral position that's against that. I don't have that at all. I'm not a puritanical fucking person. I am for alternative expressions of everything, so that between consenting adults, so that people can fucking take ownership of their existence, and so they can express themselves in ways that I think people should express themselves in ways that seem to push beyond the norms, because the norms are fucking imposed by someone else.
Yeah.
And we'd be a lot less fucking repressed and a lot less fucked up if we were to gain insight and creativity into our fucking like our own shit, you know, on all levels. And so that's why I was like, oh, this is already. And when you look at the poster, it's the Mona character, her character, looking all fetished out, and that aesthetic looks cool, and the colors, you know, it's kind of like going to a video store. We've talked about this, we talk about it a lot. You go into the video store and you don't know anything about the film, and you're there and you look at the box and what you see, and there's, in this case, it would be, you know, it's not the box, it's not a fucking, it's the thumbnail, and it's woman in this latex suit with a black, wearing black eyeshadow, black wig, this bright, vivid, blood red background, in white over the top. Dogs don't wear pants. And then as soon as you see what she's wearing, you're like, I understand.
Yeah.
If you just tell someone, I saw this movie called Dogs Don't Wear Pants, and they think it's like a comedy about pets or some bullshit like that. And it's not. It's a dark comedy about fucking death, you know? Because there is an element of dark comedy to it, in like this like deadpan element, that probably doesn't come across deeply because it's a Finnish, but I'm glad that I stumbled on, like him, I stumbled into her fucking lair, and decided to bring all of you with me.
Well, I will say this, beautifully shot, beautifully acted. There were elements of it that really just captivated me. It's just, I wish it had been a better film. I wish it had been more interesting, and there were elements that could have dug themselves into the psyche, and I think the director missed those moments. I would love to see it. I would love to see another film, same world, just going further. And I know that's hard for people to imagine, but I think the physical violence of it is easy. It's the psychological that needs to be addressed, and I think that's where it comes up short. So I'm glad I saw it, because I'm glad to go into anything that I'm unfamiliar with, regardless of the experience itself, because there is a better understanding of it, and there is a humanizing element to it that I don't think. I'm not sure this film could be made here. Definitely not in a studio environment, and even something like Secretary is way more cute than this.
Yeah.
Than this, you know.
Yeah.
And I like
Yeah.
Secretary, but it's not this.
Right. Yeah, because then then you either get like an 8mm,
Mm-hmm.
or you get the Secretary.
Or you even get Boogie Nights to a degree. The self-destructive, you know, I mean, when it comes down to sex work, especially in the American sensibility, there is such a puritanical attitude towards it that it's just very. And believe me, this is not something I can't see myself ever going into this world. And I'm not saying that in a way to validate myself. It's just, this is not something that I could ever. I don't like to be hit. I don't like pain in any way.
I mean, there's more to it than pain. You know what I mean? Like there's all kinds of shit.
There's
like,
also there is a sacrifice of power within the self, and none of that shit. Nothing that I have seen in these movies are valid in my understanding of not valid, but are attractive to me in wanting to go into this world. But like anything, if a story is well done and captivating, shit, I'm on board. That's why something like this, something like Cruising, they're both disappointing, because you see the potential and you know that there is a story there that not only deserves to be told, but deserves to be told in a full and respectful way. Cruising doesn't do that at all. This one at least attempts the respect. I think it achieves the respect. It just doesn't. Maybe the fact is that the world is actually kind of boring when it comes down to it.
You mean that world or
that world? Yeah. Maybe it's not as. Maybe that's the thing, that it's not as. Once you get past your own distaste or your own problems with the action, and you can look at it from the perspective of somebody who is excited by the action, maybe it's so mundane that it's just boring as a story. Maybe you can't make this exciting. I don't know.
I disagree. I think when
no. I'm not saying that's the case. I'm saying perhaps it is such a natural thing to these people that the straight community wants it to be grander and bigger than what it is. When in truth it's a matter of self-awareness. So you project. So like you know what I mean, where an audience will project onto it. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah. The reason I would disagree is because I feel like, as with any subculture, the subculture is already like reacting to how boring the regular fucking world is.
Yeah.
And I mean, granted, the regular world also has horror and things that make it at once like boring, but also not boring, and also horrific and filled with all this fucked up shit. So these people create or go to a subculture, and that subculture becomes their world within the world. And although that becomes natural to them, like think of whether it's fucking martial arts or tattooing or piercing or this or theater or whatever, or music, like that becomes your world, your everyday to day shit. So to a certain extent, like there's a normalcy there, but I don't think it's boring, or I don't think it's there's something that keeps people there. You know what I mean? Like versus someone who would just jump from fucking subculture to subculture because what they're actually looking for is just pure novelty. For you, I think there's someone out there. There's a dominatrix out there in the film who would just know just how long to like. She'd be like, you'd be like, play the movie, and she's like, not yet, Rick, and fucking like 5 more seconds, and then she knows when to press play.
Yeah,
gotcha. You haven't stumbled into that dungeon video store yet.
No, not yet. Well, still another 25, 30 years of life left. Who knows what's going to happen?
Who the fuck knows? You know what I mean? Just don't hold your breath. BuyMeACoffee.com.
BuyMeACoffee.com. I'm sorry, go ahead.
BuyMeACoffee.com/WatchThis. I'm glad someone reached out to me. Lambert reached out to me. I'm glad you're digging what we're doing. Our members, the people who have been with us for years and fucking years and fucking years. This one goes to Mr. Burrows. Thank you for listening. Thank you for contributing. BuyMeACoffee.com/WatchRickRamos if you're into our shit. $5. Anything helps. You can become a member. You can just drop a thing. You can just be like, hey, thank you. We like this. This is my movie. You fucking talked about it. I loved it. Whatever, I hated it. Whatever the fuck it is. The point is, go out there. Watch the fucking things. Do your fucking thing. Be the thing. Till next time. Goodbye.